I was like, oh shit. I was like, Jaren, see it. I was like, Jaren, see it. I was like, that's crazy. And I don't know. It was just interesting to see that kind of unfold like that.
Hmm. Well, I think he's honest. I think he saw something that he couldn't reconcile with his belief, and so he changed his belief. And I mean, good on him.
Mm, I mean, flat Earth isn't a belief though. That's like the
Well, I mean,
opposite of what flat Earth was originally. So
I think
I mean,
globe Earth. I think something that you think is true, right, or know is true. I think that's a belief. I believe that
yeah,
gravity
globe
exists.
Earth
I
is
believe.
a belief. Yeah, because unless you've validated that for yourself, right, then you're just left with accepting what's been given,
Well, I think
which
belief
is
is different
the
from
epitome
faith.
of belief.
I
No, I
think
didn't
that
say
you
it's
can.
faith.
Well, okay.
Yeah, it's not faith. It's a belief. Like you
I,
believe
I'd say I
Earth
think
is a
they're
belief.
both beliefs. I think that I think that
No,
any okay. Well,
not
I
at
guess
all.
our definitions are different then.
Hey, quick
Okay.
question. So quick question. When I don't know if you guys heard when Joe Hamby said that um he had a friend in Antarctica and she told him that the sun sets every day. Did 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 he lie to the people or did his friend lie to him about the sun setting in Antarctica during the summer?
Who?
Maybe they were just
What?
like it was the wrong time of year. Like it might have been like very early summer or like very late summer. This also could have been quite far
Right,
north, or I don't like to
right,
like assume lying because I
right,
don't think. Yeah.
right, right. But the discussion was about the 24-hour sun in Antarctica and that if it existed, the Earth was a globe because Dean Odell was preaching his sermon or giving his point, and then they were talking about the 24-hour sun in Antarctica, and that's when Joe Hamby said what he said, and I was like, well, clearly there's a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, so if Joe Hamby said that, did he lie to the people or did his friend lie to him? And I mean the details I don't know, but it's just the fact that he said that, and there is a 24-hour sun, so it's like what's going on in that situation?
What are your thoughts on on the flat earthers that are claiming it isn't real? Like that it's in a studio or that they lied and stuff. Like what's what are your thoughts? Because
But bananas.
yeah, I think because there are quite a few flat earthers that like believe that there is no 24-hour sun, and even after the experiment, they're trying to say, oh, green screen this, or they're in a studio, you can hear the drone beeping when it goes up to the wall, or you can there's no like breath particle, you can't see the like the mist from Witz's breath and stuff. So I think like there are quite a few flat earthers that are like adamant that it was faked and that they weren't actually in Antarctica, or that they faked the footage well in Antarctica.
All while going through TSA and checkpoints and baggage check and claims and all that.
Yeah, no, and streaming the whole flight, and then like there it's I think it's absurd, but it's I don't like yeah I don't know why it's they're claiming fakery. If it's so easy to make the 24-hour sun work on flat Earth, like why don't you just accept that what is real is real? I mean, I've seen plenty of demonstrations of it on flat Earth, so I don't know why some flat Earthers are still not claiming it's fake. Is there a way to get permission to stream in this channel, or is that like not a?
You gotta basically bow down to Jeremy.
Okay. Well,
And
I'll
write him a love letter.
yeah.
No,
No,
you gotta become a praying mantis.
yeah.
You just got to join the affiliate network. I'll send you the details. It's only $35.99.
Interesting.
um,
I gotta buy David's app for like tracking the sun flutter.
hey, Eli, you said you like did some stuff with like building oil refinery type stuff and stuff like that, or something along the lines, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got a question. Maybe you might be able to answer. What happens when they pump all that oil out of the ground? Do they create like a void, a pocket, or something, or do they backfill that with something else? Like, what's the process there?
What?
He's saying that like let's say they have a reservoir of oil underground.
Yeah.
He's thinking that like they pump out all the oil and then it leaves like a void there, which yeah.
Yeah, that's just.
I-
Google could answer that question.
I think, to my understanding, it's the oil is like highly pressurized, and so it like shoots itself up. And then once you get a low enough pressure that it's no longer coming up out of the hole, then they kind of just like leave the not really like they leave like quite a bit down there. But I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, they use a lot of fluids and oils to help
Yeah,
those
they could
those
also like pump in
individuals.
water to maintain the pressure, right?
Well, that's
Yeah, so
fracking. Like fracking is a
yeah,
specific type of
yeah.
oil mining, but I'm not really referring to fracking as much as like, like the oil derricks you see out there, or the ones that are just continuously rotating and pumping
Uh,
uh, oil out of the ground.
Okay,
uh,
so anyways, they plug them. Yeah, they seal them and they put if it's abandoned, like if it's a dry well, if it's empty, it's no longer usable. They fill them with concrete and put a head on it to keep any gases from coming back out.
okay, because I
So
have seen
you're
those
saying
before.
you're saying they cap it off and they leave like a cavity there, or are you saying they completely fill that entire pocket full of concrete?
Yes, the drill plug. They just fill it with concrete. I've seen those abandoned rigs before.
You really
I
think they're
would
filling
imagine.
all the oil they pull out and displacing that with concrete? You know how much concrete that would take, bro?
So there's already concrete down there. The pipe, the final pipe really isn't
It's not huge. It's
not
not
that
in
large of a
diameter.
diameter. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a small pipe.
I'm not
I
concerned with
think
the pipe.
the top. I think near the top, gets sealed. I'm not sure on this process, right? I don't know. I don't know
Um,
this. You can
I
Google
got,
it.
I got a question because as a global for flat earthers, it's not like a gotcha. I just genuinely curious. So you guys think that like space, like as it's represented in the media, doesn't exist, right? There is no big void of stuff with the moon and the stars and things where you can send rockets, right?
Rocket Man.
Well, you said this is a question for flat earthers.
Yeah.
About rockets? If
Well, no, I'm
rockets
saying
are capable?
like no, I'm saying do you guys think like you guys don't believe that there's like this void of like this vacuum with the moon and like other planets like floating around in it, right? Like at the space as represented in the media, do you guys don't think that exists?
Well, like 10 to the negative 17 torr, atoms being stretched out roughly 17 miles apart.
Yeah, I'm saying like spaces as the media represents it. The space that presumably NASA is sending their rockets into. Like, does that exist in your belief or in your opinion?
I mean, I don't know. That's a good question. I mean,
Mhm.
that's the thing about flat earthers, right? Like, I don't think we really try to make positive claims on things that we can't necessarily validate.
Mhm.
There's a lot of questions about it. I mean, if you had some people to ask, I'm sure one would lean one way or the other,
Do you
but
guys think that like that the moon landing was faked?
yeah, I don't necessarily agree with the evidence shown. I
Okay,
don't I
okay.
don't think yeah.
And I
I don't
presume you believe that the moon is like a lot closer than they say it is, right? This I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm again, like I don't really have a way to validate that. I don't know if
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, how did you confirm that?
Confirm how far away the moon was.
Yeah.
I haven't yet. I don't think the moon landing was faked per se because I don't think there's
You think
evidence for it being fake.
you know about
But
infrometry?
infrometry, it sounds familiar, but I don't know.
Interferometry? I think like shooting lasers or something. I think they bounced supposedly a
Oh yes, they put a mirror on the moon, I think, and then they bounce laser off of it to measure the distance based on how long it took the light to get there.
so, yeah. Yeah.
And I think you can also use like by like getting directly below the moon and then get like you can kind of form a triangle and then get the distance by like the changing like I can't remember exactly how they do it, but something to do with triangles and stuff. It's I can't remember what it's called, but they use it for like celestial navigation as well.
Right. So you think they did all that?
Well, I mean, I don't like claim to I just think that there isn't a lot of evidence that it was faked, and I don't really know why they would fake it. I do trust in the scientists.
Uh-huh. You think they've ever lied?
I think that there's some things that they've lied about, but I think for the majority of the case, what they report is what they believe to be true.
Do you think there's more than one thing they lied about?
Yes, there's more than one instance of a scientist lying. Yes.
I mean, how many times does somebody have to lie to you before you start questioning the answers they're giving you?
Well, I don't think when you say that, like, I mean, it's very broad. Like what I mean, I think the scientists have lied before. I don't think that like absolute like I'm trying to think of an example of because I actually can't think of one. I don't think that like any of the like papers published by actual scientists were intentionally misleading. I think that scientists have lied about other things, but I don't think that the scientific data being reported has ever been intentionally like made different than what the actual thing is. Um, Maybe it's been wrong. Maybe they had the wrong idea, but I don't think it was ever there was ever intentional lying in the data that they reported. They've lied about other things, but not the yeah. Like
Uh-huh.
there's definitely been scientists who have said incorrect things that they knew were incorrect, but I don't think any data has been reported falsely intentionally, from what I've like seen. But again, I'm not very versed in this. I don't really like I don't really debate flat earthers because I don't really know enough to have debates. I'm just curious.
How about like tampering with data? Like like
There are
missing
some, for
data
example,
telemetry.
there are some like companies and things and institutions that will pay to have studies done that specifically like help them right like if the funding is coming from if you're having a study on like the climate but it's being funded by a big oil company, then maybe the data that comes back isn't going to be accurate per se because the scientists have an incentive, but a lot of it is like just government grants and like these guys are just in university trying to do research and learn, and I don't think that that is going to be as susceptible um to bias.
So you're just trying to separate the individuals from the common misconception of being the government as an entire agency itself. It sounds like.
Yeah, somewhat, yeah.
But doesn't all that have to be reviewed prior to like publishing or
Well,
releasing?
they publish a paper, right, and then how I understand scientific like papers published, it says something, then other scientists independently, from all like some of them are funded by different governments in different countries and or have private funding. They verify these things they for themselves, and then the more times it's been verified or if it's like consistent, then the conclusion of the paper gets like stronger. And for sometimes you'll have a paper that's posted, but they didn't really control for things well, and then so it ends up getting dismissed because other people attempt to verify it, and it doesn't give them the same results, and it doesn't work this how it should, and so the result is deemed to be not true, and that's yeah, dismissed. But the papers are published and then peer reviewed, not reviewed and then published.
Okay, so I guess in what we're saying when they lied to us, end quote, like, is that pertaining to post peer review or prior?
Well, I don't think that like they intentionally like if someone posts like a bogus paper, like the scientist, does this research. I think it's because they're not doing enough diligence to make sure that it was rigorous. But I don't think they intentionally tried to mislead people, even if the conclusion was false. It's usually just because of bad science, but not malicious science. I'd say. There's bad science, but I don't think there's a lot of malicious science, except for in some cases where it is funded by companies who want the study to go along with their agenda, right?
No, that's kind of what it seems like. It seems like anything that does get accepted has to fit within, the rigid confines of how science is perceived today. And
I mean, I disagree. I think there's been plenty of studies that were completely crowned. Like, for example, there was this one trying to prove parity was false, so or parity symmetry. So essentially, there's like kind of symmetry in physics, which is basically the idea that physics works the same backwards in time as forwards in time. So like that's time symmetry. There's charge symmetry, which is saying that like if you were to swap all the charges of all your particles, right? Swap all your electrons for positrons and all your protons for like negatrons. It's essentially the antimatter variation. Then the physics should be the same. And then there's parity symmetry, which is saying that physics doesn't really care about if it's like a left-handed like particle or like a right-handed particle. So if you have like a mirror that can't be rotated in 3D space to become the other mirror, that's like a parity of the other thing, and physics shouldn't care. But anyway, so this was well accepted because it kind of without this there would be a you couldn't really have Newtonian physics and like relativity work together unless the parity symmetry was true and time symmetry and charge symmetry. And then this study happened where they rotated these cobalt atoms, and then it saw where which direction relative to the rotation the decay happened in. And through this, they proved that because it was uneven, it was not like it had a preference for a certain handedness, and so therefore broke parity symmetry. And this was immediately people thought this can't be true, and so the initial response was to check it. So despite it not going with the current paradigm, it still ended up now. I mean, now it's the current belief. But I think that if you have a true thing that is replicatable, even if it goes against the current paradigm, it will still be accepted as long as it's replicatable. So that's one example of something that was
That's what I'm
accepted.
saying, though. Yeah, but all you're giving me is more particle examples of things fitting within the
No,
already
because
established
the
predisposition
the
of
assumption
atomism
was
and
that.
part of. Real quick, I'll let you talk.
Okay.
If you were to present something that said something antithetical to particle interactions and said, in fact, particles, the fundamental fabric of nature isn't comprised of particles, it would be dismissed. So it
Well,
has to
that's what
fit
string
within
theory
this.
is. That's what string theory is. It says that the particles are products of these vibrating strings, which can demonstrate the spin of these fundamental particles. And so it looks like particles, but it's actually all these strings. And it's currently quite a popular theory, but it's kind of uprooting the idea that the world is made of particles. Or there's ones that deal with fields where they think that everything is at a base level a kind of a field or a fabric where waves can propagate through. So I think there are other theories. I mean, if it had to conform to this idea of particles, then string theory wouldn't be so prominent. But sorry for interrupting.
I just wanted to point out earlier you said that they'd get peer reviewed after publication, and it's usually the opposite.
To my knowledge, you have papers that are published, and then those papers are looked at by other scientists, and then the peer review process happens after the papers. But I might be wrong on that. So thanks for correcting me.
It's usually the opposite. They'll take a paper to their peers, make sure it's correct, because also the publisher has a reputation, right? They're not going to publish every single false information. What they do is they take it to their peers. Their peers say this looks to be right. They take it to the publisher. The publisher then submits it to their reviewers, and if the reviewers give the okay, then the publisher
And then it
will
gets
publish
published.
it.
And then, but also after the publishing, you still have people who have to verify it, like on their own. Because I mean, I think it'd be
Oh,
pretty
of course.
dumb. Yeah. So there is a review process obviously before, but things can still slip through that. Because if you don't have independent replication from someone who's not in the same institute, then you can get biases and things. Which is why I think you have separate, unrelated scientists from being funded by different organizations who then verify it, and if you get disagreeing results, then I mean, usually it's the original conclusion is thrown away, or then you need to investigate like why results disagreed, and yeah.
So when does a theory get peer reviewed and accepted?
Usually when it's
before publication.
well, scientific
And then
theories are like proposed, right? So someone has their proposed, like for example, you could say string theory is a proposed theory, and then a bunch of research goes into it, and you have to verify it, and then once it becomes accepted, based on working with the universe and accurately being able, you need to also be able to predict things. So if your theory like can't make accurate predictions, then it's usually not pretty. Like if you can't build like for example, I could take what's a good theory, because
I mean, is it peer reviewed and publicated?
Yeah. Well, a theory is proposed, and you have, and then a bunch of research goes into it. So, for example, string theory still in the research phase. It's like a proposed theory, and a lot of people disagree with it. A lot of people think it's bogus, but then there's good development going on it. And with string theory, if it turns out to be true because it can make predictions and it aligns with all of the data we have in the real world, then it will, then the theory will become, prevalent and accepted. And then
so when does a theory become like proven? Like for example, like the theory of relativity.
Science doesn't deal in proofs. Something has to be falsifiable in order to work, like in order to be science. Otherwise, it is pseudoscience. And so there is no like proof. Proof is for and like facts. Those are mainly for mathematics, where there are But for something, if something's not falsifiable, then it's not science. But theory is the highest possible. Like if something is a scientific theory, it's usually like the highest possible
Okay.
state of acceptance.
So is the theory of relativity being the most established and accepted falsifiable?
It is falsifiable. Yes, technically there is evidence you could find that would make that theory incorrect. But it currently works with all the evidence that we have. So until we find that evidence that doesn't work with it, then it will stand.
So you don't think there's anything that directly flew in the face of the theory of relativity, like experiment wise, that's been
This sounds like a setup for like a you're gonna show me something that contradicts relativity, so I'm gonna just say go ahead and show what you're gonna show.
Well, I'm just wondering, like, if you ever heard of like the Michelson-Gale or Michelson-Morley experiment.
Wasn't that the one that tried to disprove like the ether?
Well, I don't know if it necessarily tried to disprove the ether. I think it actually set out to disprove the rotation of the Earth and prove the ether or something like that. I don't think they originally set out to disprove the ether.
Well, I think it was not not necessarily disprove or prove. I think it was to like verify whether or not the ether existed.
I mean, that's like kind of the mainstream answer you get is that it disproved the ether. But
Mm-hmm.
I think when you actually look at the experiment,
Mm-hmm.
now I'm not an expert on those experiments, but from what I've
Now, are you
gathered,
talking about like general relativity or special relativity?
I think it was special relativity.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't I don't think that it disproves special relativity, but I haven't like really looked into
Maybe it
it.
was general. I mean, I could be wrong.
Hmm. Yeah, well, so yeah, from what I've seen, everything I've seen has conformed with special relativity, and there are some things that special relativity has like predicted, like that's actually working. Like for example, because of the bending warping. Now I'm going to say some things that you're going to believe are false because I assume a flat earther, but because of the bending warping of space time, um, when as you get further away from a gravitational body, and there's less gravity, there's less like the more gravity, essentially, the more time is warped, and so because satellites are further away from the Earth, their internal clocks have to be adjusted for the different time that they experience. Otherwise, they would fall out of time. And so that is a product of the fact that space-time has a they're moving through differently bent space-time, and so their clocks experience time differently. That's something that's predicted in relativity, and then we see. But this is only if you accept that those satellites and stuff are real and actually up there orbiting the Earth. So it requires other you have to accept other things. So it's not really evidence for the globe, because if you don't think the satellites are up there, then I can't say, oh, look at the satellite clocks. Or if you don't think that they're like orbiting around this globe Earth, then obviously I can't say that like this is why. But from the globe point of view, it's predicted and it's verified. So that's something that I would say is only works if you have special relativity. Or another theory that also has the time act like that. But I'm yapping. Sorry.
You're good, dude. I'm like juggling other things right now, trying to get this kid ready for baseball practice. But
Yeah, the only thing I've
yeah,
heard mentioned for time dilation is from other positions is just that some kind of other unknown causation.
Mhm. I'd say that like if the options for time dilation are like this theory that predicts it and works, but and some other unknown cause, I'm going to go with the working theory.
In general, I would agree with you, but I also think correlations exist. So
Well, I think correlations exist, but also that correlations need like usually need a root cause. Like if you have two things that are correlated, and it's like and you can like by knowing one thing you can predict something about like the other aspect. Like you let's say you're I'm trying to think. I can't really come up with analogies on the spot, but if it's an actual like two things are actually correlated, in which like if you know one thing you can kind of know the other to some degree, then
you know the mass
if
and the
one doesn't, sorry.
I was just saying, if you know the mass and the speed of an object, you can predict its acceleration or something. I don't know.
Yeah, because they're correlated. But that's where one directly causes the other. But you have correlations sometimes where neither directly causes the other. But they're still like kind of tied tangentially. But in order to have that, you need to have like some sort of root cause. Which is all I was saying. The correlations.
Well, I mean, in
Yeah.
science, they always say be careful not to mistake a correlation for causation, like
Yes.
the rooster crowing and the sun rising. However, it's not legitimate to say because two things are correlated that makes you suspicious. That's not a correct interpretation,
Well.
because all cause and effect is correlated.
Yes.
yeah,
Like
what
I mean, sorry.
I was just gonna say, what you're about is what they call a confounding variable, right? Where one variable he's getting at and what I was getting at is that you can have causes that are potentially not related at all, and that can create a correlation.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Anchovy, are you a flat earther?
I
I'm
don't
not.
claim to know, but I do enjoy hearing people's theories.
Hi,
Yeah,
wait. Name is John. I'm a flat earther. I have a question for you, if you're free.
yeah.
Thank you.
Me?
What flat Earth models have you heard of so far?
I'm not really that deep into the space. I mean, I still kind of think of like a sort of disc with a ring of ice around the end. I don't really know what people claim is past these, this ice. It could be more ice, but and that you have a local sun, or at least closer than millions and millions and millions of miles away, and a sort of moon at the same level, and then they rotate around and cause the seasons and things by moving up and down, I presume. But that's kind of the only thing. And I've heard some things for like gravity is like either density and buoyancy or like electric. But I don't really know a lot about flat Earth.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. So that was one model. There's
Mhm.
there's three really popular. There's the Flat Earth Society, which people believe is controlled opposition.
Oh, definitely. I
The
think that's the one where it's like flying through space, right? Like
Yeah,
accelerating constantly. Yeah, that's
upward.
absurd because it would reach the speed of light in like a few. Yeah.
I agree. And the other popular model that was popular for a while is the infinite plane. So that model would mean it would be similar to space. There would be no definite edge or boundary to this flat Earth. But that seems to have been challenged because on that model, the horizon would be at eye level at any elevation. But it
Yeah.
seems that, yeah, some observation has shown that uh, that reaching certain elevations, the horizon appears to go below eye level,
Yeah. The higher you go
which
up, I mean, I've seen photography from these high altitude weather balloons, and it drops down below eye level.
yeah, that would seem to match. Now put yourself on a circular, round, flat table. You
Hmm.
just put yourself on that flat table and then rise in elevation. I think the same thing would occur. The horizon
Yes,
would be below. Yeah.
but you would all, yeah. I think, yeah. I've also heard this one that like says that we're on like a really, really, really massive Earth, so there is curvature, but it's just like way less than like what the current globe says. Um, but I don't know if anyone actually believes that. It's just something I've heard.
Yeah, that's one idea as well. So if it's not the 3959 radius in miles,
Mhm.
then it is either larger and they're trying to hide resources, land, etc. So
Mhm.
yeah.
I think I think that theory is I don't really think it works because in order to have like your flat Earth be flat enough that you can that all the other flat Earth like arguments like kind of work, or your little circle on top of the big ball. I think that size. I don't know if there is a material that will be able to hold that up. It would like collapse into a star at this point.
You mean like
So what?
the Okay,
Like
go
if you
ahead.
have
Sorry.
like something that big, the gravity would be so massive that it would collapse in on itself.
What's the best evidence you have that you're on a globe?
I'd say the Cavendish experiment that proves that mass and there's something that makes two objects with mass come together. That's pretty convincing for me because I mean I've done it like with like many different materials. I've done it with ceramic, I've done it with metal, I've done it with like this heavy like rubber, like the kind you'd find in a bowling ball. Things to try and eliminate anything that would have to do with like charge or anything. I mean, I've used diamagnetic materials, so materials that push away from like magnetic fields, and the things attract. So I'd say that's kind of convincing me that gravity exists.
And
And
you
if you
accounted for electrostatic charge buildup or anything
well,
like
yeah,
that? Because I mean,
I attempted to use a bunch of different like materials, and like and
but
things with
that
different
doesn't mean
charges
you're
and things.
grounding it out. I mean, You got to understand, like any matter existing has an electrostatic potential to it, like
Mhm.
fundamentally. So how are you gonna ground that out or account for that?
That is a good point, and I didn't when I did it in my high school class. So I
So
yeah.
when you added a charge to it, did it like repel water or anything? Like when you added it to these materials?
Sorry. What do you mean?
When you
I
add a
didn't.
static or kinetic, like your balloon, you rub it on your
Mm-hmm.
hair,
Mm-hmm.
it repels water. Did you
Okay.
do that with the other materials that you're talking about?
Did I test if they repelled water?
Yes.
No, I didn't. But that is actually a great way to test, I guess, if it has a static
Yeah,
charge to it.
exactly. And you should do that with the Cavendish also.
I'll do that next time. Yeah, thank you.
Are you 100% certain it's a globe?
I am not 100% certain on anything because, like, science, for it to be science, has to be falsifiable. There is definitely evidence I could see that would change my mind about the shape of the Earth as it would about anything. I'm not certain on anything.
Impressive.
Because something is falsifiable doesn't mean it's not true or can't be true. I
Well,
can say this is
something,
an apple, and the way to
yes.
falsify it is to go find me something that's not, like, point out what's, bring me all the other things that aren't an apple or whatever. Like, and you could be like, okay, this thing isn't an apple. That thing is an apple, even though the apple is falsifiable.
Yeah, yes, but I don't think that I can be 100% certain on anything. Like, I can't say that there isn't something I would see that could change. Like, if, for all I know, I could be in, like, a brain in a vat. I could be, being tricked by Descartes' demon, and I'm actually standing on a flat Earth, hallucinating about a globe Earth, or maybe like the way that light bends is just so that it makes it look like the Earth is a globe, and not flat. But
So,
I am sure, like, as in, I would, I would bet my life that it is a globe, but I'm not like 100% sure. I'm 99, to the,
so
point nine
based
nine
on all
nine.
the,
Yeah.
I mean, based on a couple different things, uh, like the simplest thing is usually true, right? Why would that be the thing
No,
everybody
no,
wants to do?
Occam's razor saying like the simplest thing's usually true
Exactly.
is it's no, it's actually it's the simplest thing, which like should be uh it's saying that the idea or the model that you have should require the least amount of assumptions. It's not saying that simpler is more likely to be true because the natural world doesn't care how simple or complex or hard to figure out it is, right? Like the world doesn't like gravity. Like if let's say gravity does exist, gravity doesn't care that it's good, like that it's easy to prove or hard to prove, right? Like the world doesn't have any bias to being simple. It's just that when trying to make a model that explains the world, you want to use the least number of assumptions. And so if there's this thing which requires you to assume a whole bunch of this stuff, and this thing which only requires you to make one assumption about an unknown, then the thing with one assumption is probably more likely. It's not saying that
So,
simpler things are more likely.
so elevation and flat Earth being the bottom, and it's the base of everything. That's one assumption, and you don't need gravity and all the other stuff. You don't need the excess of space around anything. You don't need all the magic happenings of space. You need the physics that you can see, the attribute of stuff you can repeat and see and do and demonstrate. And if you demonstrate them on a micro, they should be doable on a macro too, the same. And if they're not, then we have a problem.
I disagree with you on that, but that's for a number of reasons. But I don't really want to go into it because I'm not really here to have a debate. I'm just here to ask questions and learn things.
How can you answer a question about a globe or gravity when you can't produce it? You don't know what it is. You don't have any balls orbiting anything. Like you,
You're
I
going. You
mean,
want. Yeah, Dumac wants mini Earth with mini physics.
So I think that's a straw man of the globe position. If you have a force that decreases, proportional to to the size, right? Something small is going to produce a minuscule amount of gravity. And if you have like a small little globe, right, and it has a tiny amount of gravity, but it's right above, you're holding it on your big globe right below you, things are going to fall to the bigger globe. And so you have to have no other gravity in order for your little thing to actually display its gravity because things, you can try and create your model where things are orbiting each other, but there's going to fall to the floor because there's a much bigger source of gravity right there. So you could do
Well,
this in outer space, but
for
if
one,
you think outer space is fake, then that doesn't work
Why
either.
don't you? Well, you know how the
for
mountain supposedly pulls the plumb with supposed gravity because the mountain is so massive. Why don't you put the object like above, like a real heavy object above the thing, and then watch it pull up from it?
Well, it won't pull up because the
Won't pull up.
no, if you have a big massive object above the thing you're trying to pull, the thing's still going to fall down because the Earth is an even more massive object. So unless you can make something more massive than the Earth, then things are going to fall towards the Earth no matter what.
So where can you reference any of this stuff that you're making up if Earth's flat and none of that's real? How can you get the reference of what you're trying to say ever for that to even be convincing to any human in the world?
I don't really get the question.
Where do you have a sphere or a ball doing your claim other than saying it's happening outside? You said
I'm going to say
falsifiability
so.
was the
So I'm
thing,
going to
right?
say I'm going to say
No.
that. Okay.
Falsifiability is what we're looking for. How do we
Yes.
falsify your claim of gravity and big ball do everything?
How would we so like you're saying, what evidence would disprove it?
How do we even see a reference of big stuff and little stuff doing magical stuff and making orbits and
Okay,
all
so
this
I'd say an
to
example
falsify
of
gravity?
so I'd if your question, how do you falsify gravity? I'd say if you were to show a different thing, like for example, gravity could not be the bending working of space-time. It could be a different thing that's like carried through particles or something. It could be yeah. So it's falsifiable. But if you're saying like how do I
You
like show?
hold on, slow down,
Yeah.
brother. You're
Okay.
going to say a whole bunch of things. So if you said if I show an invisible thing that doesn't exist, then I can falsify an invisible thing that doesn't exist.
No. I'm saying okay. So falsify means to like disprove. So to falsify gravity, I'm trying to think of an alternative theory. So
How
if
did
you want me to
you?
falsify, huh? What?
How did
DMAC,
you
hold on,
falsify?
you're interrupting, dude. Let's try to go one at a time, guys. So, anyways, just kind of getting circular there.
Yeah.
I get DMAC's point, right? Because there's really like no on-off switch for gravity, right? And just saying
Yeah.
mass attracts mass and they come together is like less than half the freaking story.
Yeah.
Like
Well, yes,
mass
I
doesn't
know.
just go to mass in a linear fashion. It's always curve linear.
Well,
Um,
I didn't say that. He's asking me how I falsify gravity, so I'm trying to like think of a way to falsify, like what evidence would disprove it for me.
well, for one, I mean, you said you considered it a force initially. I wanted to interject on that, but I just kind of bit my tongue. Like, I don't think a lot of the Glovers here today perceive gravity as a force.
When did I say it was a
And
force?
then, well, I mean, I could be mistaken, but or maybe you slipped, but I could have swore you said,
Mhm.
referred to gravity as a force, the force of
No,
gravity.
there is no actual force. It's that when if you move through like curved space time, then your position in
Right.
space changes as you move through the curved time. So it acts like a force. It has a lot of properties of a force, as in but and it can be observed as the phenomenon of mass attracting mass, but the mechanism is not it's not a force. It's not there's no pushing or pulling of anything.
Yeah.
Well, I think
So
there's a slight talking past, right? Because I mean, you brought up Cavendish earlier. Most of FE would say like they wouldn't deny little g gravity, right? It's just the idea of what exactly is causing that.
hmm And I'm saying that there could be other explanations, right? Like you could have these like gravitron particles that are like transferring this. It could be a force, but I think that the bending or warping of space-time and like relativity, I think that explains it the best with our and conforms the most to our observations. I think
do
that
you do you
sorry.
think you think space and time can be merged and manipulated physically, even though they have no physical properties to them?
Well, I think that you can have non-physical things that still like, for example, you have the Higgs field, which gives particles their mass, and the Higgs field isn't like a literal, like thing. It's like it's not a literal field, but it is still a like kind of like a fabric that can particles can interact with, and so I do think that particles with mass have some interaction with space-time, it might not be like literal time and like spatial dimensions warping, but it is something that and that is the closest approximation that we have is like special relativity.
I'm just surprised that you use falsifiability as like one of your prerequisites to determine belief versus, I don't know, fact, I guess, or
Well, like I'd say, science
evidence.
doesn't deal in facts. I don't think
Yeah,
that
or
anything can be
evidence.
truly. Yeah,
Oh, you don't
Yeah,
think
I
there's
think that
absolute truth?
I don't think there are absolute. I think that there is an absolute truth, right? Let's say you were, God, you could see the absolute, like, of everything, and you could determine what's true. But I don't think that it is possible to ever get to the absolute truth. You can get closer and closer and
How
closer.
about
You can get more
objective
accurate. Yeah, no, I
objective
don't.
truth?
I think objective truth exists. I don't think it's possible to prove with science because there is always going to be something that could potentially account for that. I mean, you could kind of discover everything about the universe, but then still not be able to prove whether or not we're in a simulation or not, right? It's and it could be complete. Yeah, so
So
I
is
think
there
that
anything that you're 100% certain of?
no,
Are you a solipsist?
I don't know what that is.
You don't know what a solipsist is?
don't even start that one, dude.
Well, I mean, it's important. I mean, he's a young guy. I mean, he should be aware of what he's leading himself into. I mean,
Yes.
So
All right, go ahead.
it's important.
Find it out.
No, omitting absolutes from your reality doesn't make you a solipsist.
Are you a man, Left Lane?
Yep,
Are you 100% man?
I'm 99.9% man. I might be
Yes,
a figment of my own imagination.
yes. There's always a chance
I'm
that you are a brain in a vat being tricked into thinking that you're a man and that you're actually, on like it's yeah. There's never a way to get 100% sure on anything because there's always some amount of chance. Now, it isn't reasonable for me to go around the world acting on the like as if nothing is certain. I can be like because the chance is just so, like. But I'm still not willing to say that I'm 100% certain because that would be false. It's there is no way to be 100% certain. You can you can be work like I will bet my life on certain things because I think that the chance is just so small that it's minuscule, it's infinitesimal, it won't affect anything. But I'm not gonna say that it's 100% definitely objectively true because yeah, I don't think I think the only place in which that exists is in like math and logic, in which case there are proofs based on the internal rules of those systems, but I
so
don't think you
so
can say that with the
so
real world.
math for you is
Yeah,
absolute,
I wanted to
but
say
if
something there. Hold
Yeah,
on.
hold on. Jeremy's trying to get in, Obo.
Oh,
I just wanted to say that one other part, which was math is absolute, but yet it's an abstract concept.
He said I'm gonna go anyway. Fuck you, Jeremy.
Yeah, well, so the thing is with math is that it's a system that like is built that has certain rules. So it is like, for example, it is in like 2 plus 2 could never equal anything other than 4. Because it is like within the rules that we made, it's 2 plus 2. Like it's hard to explain, but for example, if you design a different system of logic, right? Let's say different rules of logic. You don't have the law of non-contradiction. You don't have then logic would operate differently. But within a framework, if you build a set of rules, you can get things that are objectively true, objectively true within those rules. But so for concepts like math and logic, there can be truths within those systems.
So you're
because
saying logic doesn't apply to reality? It's separate?
Well, actually, I mean, technically, there are some things that go against the laws of logic. Like, in the quantum realm, you have the
No, bro.
Heisenberg uncertainty principle, which
No, bro. No, bro. You said falsifiability, bro.
what do you mean?
That's your prerequisite. And again, like you keep bringing up all these things, like the Higgs boson, this, and all these
Mhm.
things that aren't necessarily falsifiable. Like they're perceived through a rigid framework, like
Yeah, well,
an
they are
atomistic lens.
falsifiable. There is theories that falsify them, right? Like, you could have so many different, like, I mean, there's string theory, which is not particle,
We're all
like,
over the place right now, bro.
Okay.
Jeremy wanted
Yeah.
to get in, dude. Jeremy, you there, dude? You had a question? Going once, going twice. All right, I'll let the next guy ask this question. Someone else wanted to get in. Go ahead.
Yeah, wait, I really want you to consider that you can be 100% certain about things. Now, being right is another question. But I do believe in absolute truths, and I believe the creator created the laws, like axioms, laws in nature, and
Mhm.
those should be really big clues for anybody.
I
You're
disagree
saying you
there.
can't absolutely know anything about reality, about this reality we live in.
Not with 100% certainty. That's what he's
Yeah,
saying. He said
I'm
he
saying
can be very close.
I'm saying there are no
All right, I
absolute
can get you to 100.
99.99%.
I can
Okay.
get you to 100. You want to hear the scenario?
Sure.
Here's the scenario: 2 decks of cards.
Mhm.
Right? We lay them all out. We make sure they're exactly identical. 52 cards, standard deck. They're both the same. All right,
Mhm.
you with me? It's easy.
Mhm.
It's easy. Now, I want you to pick some cards, right?
Mhm.
And you can pick as many cards as you want. And I want you to know with 100% certainty, like I'm going to pick, you can randomly pick one card out of one deck without looking at it, put it down on the table, throw the rest of that deck out. Now you
Mhm.
have a whole fresh 52 deck, the other one we inspected at the beginning. I give you that deck, I say, with 100% certainty, pick however many cards you want to make sure that you will have a card that matches the hidden card from the other deck. What are you going to do to make sure 100% you will match the card?
Well, I'd assume I take 52 cards, right?
You can pick all the cards, right? And be like, yep, I matched it up 100%, right? We're
There's
good.
gonna be, yeah. You'd think there'd be at least one card, yeah.
Well, no, there definitely will be. It's 100%. Yeah,
Well,
they're
no,
the same exact deck.
well, it's not though, because it's like the concepts. Like, I mean, for example, one card for some reason could mysteriously like deatomize, or like it's no. I'm
Come on,
saying that
bro.
like no
You
no.
talking
I'm
about quantum
saying
miracles? You talking about a quantum
yeah
miracle?
yeah. Quantum fluctuations.
You've been talking to Omnivore a little bit,
Chill,
haven't
bro.
you?
I
Chill,
think
bro.
so.
Stop hanging out with Omnivore.
No, I'm just saying quantum fluctuations could just like I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm saying like I can go up to like this
That
person
thing you
who has
said's not
a
real,
gun.
bro. That's off of Star Wars or Star Trek or something.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that it's it's impossible to get to 100%. I can go up to the person with a gun in my head and say, "Look here, there's going to be a card that matches," but it's not going to be ever
He said you
100%.
got a
I don't
wild card in your deck, Jeremy, that you didn't account for.
like. Yeah,
So
I
we
don't
have
think.
we have the 52 cards from the
Hmm.
deck. We have them all spread out. We can see there's 52 of them. You picked all
Hmm.
52. You picked all
Hmm.
52 cards. And then we know that we matched up the other deck earlier
Hmm.
and we could see there's one card there. So we know none of the cards disappeared through quantum miracles or quantum mysticism or quantum magic or whatever it is. We have all the cards.
For all
You're
I
telling
I
me
know,
already
there's
know his
not
answer,
100.
bro.
for all I
I
know,
already know his
there's like
answer. His
yes,
answer
okay,
is
no.
that you're human and you're capable of making errors and mistakes, and he can't trust your certainty of judgment because he
Well,
can't be
no,
100% certain of you either.
I can't be 100% certain. I could there could be all of the beams of light going into my retinas to make me like see that extra card in the deck that's not actually there, and for some reason my like
You realize that's a
I'm not
fallacy, though,
saying
right?
this is absurd. This is absurd, right? I'm not saying
That's a
this will ever
fallacy.
happen in real
Yeah,
life.
you're
Huh?
appealing to fallacy.
Well, I'm not saying
Yeah.
this will ever happen in real life. I'm just saying that you can't be certain 100% about anything.
He just
That's the
showed you
appeal
that
to
you can be certain.
impossibility, bro. It's a
I could be 100. If I did
fallacious
the card
ideology.
thing, if I did the
Hmm.
card thing, and you said, are you 100% certain that you're going to be able to match one of the cards? And I picked all the cards, I would say yes, I'm
Hmm.
100%. And we would flip the cards, and it would always be 100%, no matter how many times whoever did it, always 100%.
Yes. It's a practical
What if
thought
it?
experiment.
Yeah, because the
What if
only
it had?
rebuttal you gave is
I
that
think I think
the only rebuttal
practically
you gave is that it just disappeared from reality, right? Just disappeared supernaturally. The matter just you said deatomized or something.
Quantum mysticism.
yeah. There's quantum
We got
fluctuations that
quantum
like
heterological miracles, bro.
Like I'm saying
What
that
if
that's
it would?
absurd. I'm not saying that would ever happen in the real like world ever because of how unlikely it is. But technically, you could have quantum fluctuations because anything. No, I mean, quantum fluctuations could not even exist. We could all be being tricked
What are
by
you even
Descartes' demon.
saying, dude? There's
I'm
nowhere in
I'm,
nature
I
you
don't.
can point to and show me quantum. Quantum does not exist.
sure. Well, I mean, yeah.
So what are you saying? What are you saying? Yeah, quantum
I'm
doesn't
just
exist.
saying.
Left lane, you didn't know that? There's
Yeah,
nowhere in nature you
quantum.
can point to and show me
What is
quantum.
quantum? Define quantum.
Quantum is the etymology of it boils down to quantity, the amount of. That's it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's it.
so
The
it
amount
does
of
exist
something.
then.
Okay.
The
Well, that's
amount of
not
something. He's
okay. Well,
appealing to the amount of something. What is it? Quantum reflections.
that was just one. That
What
was just one. Like, sure,
what if
you
the
can.
ink? What if the ink has a? It's a misprint. They're not exactly right.
I
Yes,
mean,
yes, sure.
what if a dragon flew out of the car? I mean, what is the
Exactly.
fucking where do
I'm
we
not
draw the
saying
line
like.
here, bro? This is
Yeah, but
irrational,
guys,
illogical
it's not that
ideology.
crazy. It's not
Left
that
lane, we
crazy
matched
for
the
him to
cards
say
up.
that.
Hold on.
You
To
could
address
be.
left lane's point, left lane,
Mhm.
we matched the cards up beforehand.
For
Okay,
example.
we laid them all out. We laid both the
Yeah.
decks out, 2, 3, 4, 5, lined them all up in
Yes.
order and hearts and colors. Made sure they were both the same.
Yeah, but you could also like. I mean, you could just be in a simulation, and the person, watching over their PC in their living room could go
Bro,
in and just remove one of the cards. I'm just not saying like I would go around the world acting as if those are possibilities because the chance is like infinitesimally small. It's not. It's absurd. It's though,
Because
for example, entropy, right? You could say entropy always increases in a system, even though technically all of the particles could go and huddle together in a little ball if they bounce the right way. But because of how unlikely that is, you can just say that entropy in a system is going to increase. So
Do you
practically,
how
I
think
can go
being
certain of
around.
that are
uncertain
you?
about things is a danger, or
Sorry, what?
do you think being uncertain about certain things, could be a danger to you?
Well, I'm not uncertain. I'm practically certain, as in I'm not going to go around assuming that this, like, acting as if this is a possibility and being so diligent, that making sure that my cards don't magically disappear, because it's not going to be something that I think would ever happen in my lifetime or in the lifetime of the universe or like ever.
So then why
But
bring it up? Why bring it up?
because I think that being 100% certain is like it's not possible. I think that the fact that this could happen in some framework, the laws of like physics could be completely different from everything we understand, and it like I'm just saying that what could be,
it's
even if it's not.
antithetical to science, dude.
We
So
know
it's
how
Yeah,
just the
cards
that's
biggest
all
work.
it's
it's the
saying.
biggest appeal to possibility fallacy ever. It
Yeah.
sounds like.
Like,
Yeah,
dude, we know
think
how
that.
playing cards work. You know what I'm saying? There's no magic happening. Like it's 100%, dude. You're gonna match the card.
I don't think absolute facts exist. I don't think you can ever be 100% certain about anything. You can be close. You can be really close. I don't think it's possible to be certain.
I don't think it's that crazy for science to leave open the possibility of something going on that they don't know about, especially,
Yes.
from people who believe in, God and religion. I don't see how you can believe in
Yeah,
miracles and godly intervention, but you can't understand what he's saying here.
well, that's like
Um,
I get it. Like always leaving room for something more to a degree, but working with what you've got for the time being. Like I understand that, but when you're gonna go as far as the saying that invisible fairies could be the root cause, and never being able to definitively rule that out with a rational, logical mindset, is where we start having a problem. Because
there's
that
just
is a
no
possibility in your
You could say
worldview,
the
and that's
same
an
thing
issue.
for God, though,
there's
right?
just no
He's not
rational
saying that.
rebuttal. There's no rational
No,
rebuttal for the card scenario. There
Yeah, but
just
he's
isn't
not
one.
saying he uses that as logic or in practicality. He's not saying that if he was to make that bet, he would factor in the very small chance that something we've never
he
proven is
is.
going on.
Yes, it's a
No,
it's
Maybe
a
he
he's not.
would.
fraction of a percent. It's
But
a fraction of a percent in his worldview that could
Yeah,
never be
it's a
dismissed.
fraction of a fraction of a fraction. It's like it's infinitesimal. You have an infinite
Either way,
string. You have 0 point and then an
it's
infinite string of
accountable in your
zeros and then
worldview.
like a number.
Either way, it's accountable in your worldview, and that's the whole
It
point.
is
That
it is a possibility. It is. I'm also I'm a determinist, so I think that like there only is one possibility, but if I don't know what it is, then you can theorize that multiple things could happen, even though only one could ever. But
He would make the bet that he has the card, but he's still going to tell you there's a possibility that he's wrong.
Can I just say one thing on the word certain? Why would we even have the word certain if nobody was ever certain of anything?
That's right.
It's actually almost certain is the proper term.
Yeah. There's definitely an information war, and they want to cause confusion and self-doubt. So this is definitely played out in the minds of this society, where now they don't even believe in absolutes anymore. And I think it's very dangerous, and it could lead to them being controlled, manipulated very easily.
No, I think that no actual scientist will tell you like that these things are objective facts that can't be disproven, because that's not what science is. So it has to be falsifiable.
I literally have Neil deGrasse Tyson saying that once you have experimental consensus, you have a new truth about reality. That truth about reality is 100%.
Yep, I heard him say it.
You can't be not 100 have a truth about reality, and that's not 100%. Then it could not be the truth about reality.
Pretty sure Bill Nye the Science Guy, Michio Bukaki, all them guys be saying this type of stuff, bro.
Yeah, this is how the financial system works.
Again, those are science communicators, not scientists, but whatever.
It doesn't matter, dude. That's how it works, bro. You do something, we know it. Now the engineers know. The engineers can take what we know and give us all kinds of stuff, like airplanes.
Yes,
we know how airplanes work 100%.
And I'm not saying
if we didn't, you wouldn't get in airplanes.
I'm not saying to be unsure or like don't trust in the science, and like I'm just saying that it's impossible to have a completely airtight model where there is no other explanation that could explain that. So you can never have
fairies and unicorns, bro. That's all I gotta say. I mean,
so you're saying there could be the whole reason we can't prove things is because there could be unknown variables. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, there is always going to be an unknown or room for a different explanation.
Because of unknown variables, or is there some other reason?
I just say because of unknowns.
Well, could there be another reason other than unknown variables, or do you have another reason of why we wouldn't know 100%?
There could be unknown laws. There could be laws of physics that are only valid in certain portions of the universe.
That would be an unknown variable. That sounds like an unknown variable.
Well, you can call it an unknown variable, but it's not necessarily an unknown variable.
Well, if there's a law we don't know about and it's interfering with this thing we do know about, it sounds like an unknown variable to me. Anyways, all right.
If you know everything about the universe that you're in, you still can't verify whether or not you're in a simulation, and things could change. You can't know for sure about anything. I mean, you can be practically sure. You can say that these laws and things that we've discovered through science, they're useful, and I can use this to build a nuclear reactor, and this thing is generating power, so it's useful. But it has to be able to be falsifiable. There has to be the possibility of different explanations or things that we
can you define, Guy, can you define reality or consciousness? If not, then how can you then say it's a possibility that it couldn't be real?
I don't think I can actually properly define reality.
And I don't blame you. It's a tough one. That's fine. Yeah. I'm okay with that. The problem is unless you can define it, how can you then deny it?
What do you mean?
What, consciousness? Being awake, alert, and oriented to your reality?
He's saying the possibility of bringing a brain in a vat within a simulation, and I'm saying that is a possibility. Mm-hmm. Now, if you can't even define reality itself, then I mean, how could you then deny the fact that you're in it? I don't know, man. It just seems
definitions are not a prerequisite for something being real.
Well, I mean, wouldn't you have to be able to understand it?
No, they're also not a prerequisite for something not being real or for denying something. I don't have to be able to define ether flux, in order to have some idea that I think ether flux is not actually a thing.
But what if your ether flux idea was completely off topic from what ether flux is and what's said to be, and
Okay.
you just denied it based on your assumptions of it? That's my point.
Yeah, it's if I have zero idea what the words mean, then you have a point. But unfortunately, all of us here in this chat know what reality means. We might not all have
Um,
exactly the same definition, but
yeah, I don't necessarily know. I mean, if the fact that you're giving me a small chance that the reality that you're experiencing in each and every one of us is possibly not real, even though you haven't defined what real is, it just seems like an unhonest position or attempt to make, and put yourself in an unhonest position.
I gotta go to the
Like,
washroom, guys. I'll be back in a minute. Sorry.
yeah. So again, I mean,
I
to say
agree. It's
that
very
something's
big.
not real, you would have to say what real is to put it in the most simplest terms.
yeah, I don't think that's necessarily the case.
And then you
Well,
could
how
look at the
so?
antonym of the word. The antonym for reality would be fantasy.
Well, that's the thing is they're accounting for fantasy. That's why I mentioned unicorns and fairies as a possibility. So they haven't really separated the difference between fantasy and reality when they've just merged those two together and said that either one could be possible. More
Yep.
likely it's reality, but there's still a small percent of fantasy. They haven't drawn the line.
I don't think
That's
you
true.
have to. I don't think that's a. I think that you can say I am demanding that you do this, but I don't think it's a. I don't think it's that powerful of a
Wow.
requirement.
So if someone had a jug of bleach, should they drink it or not?
They should not. Well, it
Okay.
depends on who. It depends on who.
Oh, that's tough. I don't think
The
anyone
other
should
guy
have
still
to do
here?
that.
The one that was talking earlier?
No, he dipped out.
Ah.
He's here, but he said he had to do something. He'll be back.
Yeah, definitely. This is, I think, a problem. And interestingly enough, he mentioned a few root keywords. One in particular, I believe, is the root cause. So I'd like to question him on that. How can you find the root cause, and what is the root cause? Who created the root cause?
So, when you're doing a root cause analysis, are you familiar with that term?
Oh no. Feel
Okay,
free
so
to enlighten us, please. Thank you.
in analysis of failures, mechanical failures, software failures, whatever, one of the practices is to do what they call a root cause analysis. And essentially, you ask, why did this happen? And then why did that happen? And
I know that one.
you do it several times, and the current best practice is to go no more than 5 levels deep. In other words, you'll ask, why did this happen 5 times? You with me there?
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
I think
so
it's a minimum of 5, isn't it?
no. Okay, so when you're doing it for software, which is what I'm familiar with, you would ask it 5 times. The thing is, you can go as deep as you feel like it. You can go 100 levels deep, but the return on investment is only for 5. So, for example, you could say this function failed. Why did this function fail? Because it was poorly coded. Why was it poorly coded? Was it because the requirements were bad, or was it because the coder made a mistake and the error checkers didn't catch it, and so on and so forth? And eventually, you're going to go into something like, we need better training for people, or we need to have more people review it. You're going to get into human factors and then cultural factors about the organization.
And then you might even go to the point where it's
But
like,
but
the particles
but never the
interacting. Like
standard
it's
operating procedures that you're applying, right?
To say again?
I said, but never the standard operating procedures.
No, they could be. The why could be the standard operating procedures are broken. That's entirely possible.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds like a good protocol. So 5 levels. That's seems practical.
Yep,
And thank you, Omnivore. Appreciate that.
sure.
So it's essentially just the process of elimination
No,
I mean, is there any efficiency at all? Is it just like random shooting in the dark? Like, what's the how
so
are you honing in?
it's a root cause analysis. So there is a car crash. Why? Why did our driver crash? Okay, so because the
Could be a
driver
quantum miracle.
was that wouldn't be a quantum miracle. It could be a thermodynamic miracle, but you'd
I mean,
have
it
to
could
know
be
what that was.
quantum reflexivity.
You'd have to know what that was. So no, that's not going to work. So
Well, it's primarily about problem solving, like in manufacturing. If you don't get to the root cause of something that's causing a problem, the problem will persist. So you want to identify and fix the problem at its origin.
correct.
Honestly, I'm like a one level kind of guy when it comes to like my software programming. I'll there will be an issue where like for some reason when I collide, I get like my guy in the game I'm making collides with the block, it just gets stuck on the block, and so I just make it so that the I just go one level. Okay, why'd that happen? And then I because this this bit of code is causing it to have its speed set to 0 when it's colliding. So I just have it so that when you it doesn't actually overlap with the block, and then it works and it's fine.
He says
So I don't
he's
know.
so good it only takes one question. Elbow had a
Well,
question
no,
for you,
I'm
though.
not saying so good. I just do like surface level patches, and it makes my code clunky and inefficient, but it works. So just band-aids, yeah. I code with band-aids.
I'm
You
just
seem
saying
young.
that there's a limit to how far back you want to go in that chain of asking why.
Elbow, you there?
Me? Who?
Oh no, I think he had a question for you, but you guys are playing hide and seek or something.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking of creating games. Are you agnostic?
No, I'm an atheist.
Okay, yeah.
Mm.
So you've already
Sorry to hear
closed
that.
the door to the possibility?
No, I could be convinced, but I believe that there is no God.
Okay, thank you.
Not that I don't believe in one, but I believe that there is no God. But there are things that could convince me otherwise. Like if I were to see evidence, but then if it's evidence, then it's not really faith, is it? So I don't know. It's kind of hard to have evidence for faith, because when you have evidence for something, it kind of stops being faith and starts being, like.
Well, Jesus spoke of that in the New Testament. So there was a time where after he was resurrected from death, and he appeared to
Mhm.
all the apostles but one, which was Thomas, right? So this was used as a lesson. So when Thomas arrived and the other apostles said, Jesus was here, and Thomas replied, well, I don't believe it. Are you guys playing a game on me? I'll believe it if I could see Jesus and put my hands in his wound, in his wounds. And then that was the perfect time for Jesus to teach him a lesson, which applies to people today. So
And then
blessed
didn't he
are
say
those.
you believe because you've seen? Blessed are those who believe without seeing,
Yeah,
or something.
and blessed are those who have not seen and still believe.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
going to be very true for like the young children of today. They weren't there, but they still believe, and that would make the creator proud.
Yes. So that's great. I think that you don't really need to justify your faith with evidence, because otherwise it's not faith, and people have plenty of reasons to believe. But I like having evidence, and it's just I don't know. I'm not convinced. I believe that there's a lot of like reasons that there is not a God, or at least not the Christian God. So I mean I just don't really yeah, I believe there is no God, and specifically the
At this
Christian
time.
God.
At this time, yeah, I understand for sure.
Yeah.
How much information do you think you understand right now at your young age of all information? 100%, 50, maybe?
Of all information like that's possible,
Yes.
I'm gonna go 0 point. I mean,
Love it.
it's gonna be a lot of zeros. It might even be like an infinitesimal, but yeah.
Yeah, there you go. I really appreciate your honesty and your time. So I just want you to, with that in mind, I want you to think that potentially the creators in that huge portion that you have yet to maybe
Oh,
explore.
most definitely.
Okay.
But from what I have so far, like I'm not just gonna sit there not kind of like not having much of an opinion until I get to the rest of the, because I don't think I'll ever get higher than 1% in my lifetime. I don't think anyone ever has. So I'd say like, but I can still, based on what I've seen in my small bit, like kind of make a greater prediction. Like if you were like, let's say, had a bag with an infinite number of marbles, and then you took out a few thousand or even a few billion marbles, and every single one was yellow, right? Though technically that, because it's infinite marbles, you have not even made any actual dent. You could pull out quintillions of marbles and never make a dent because of how much knowledge there is. You can still kind of make predictions that the next marble you pull out is probably going to be yellow, even though it could be any other color. So I think that even though I don't have a lot of information, I can still have I from the stuff that I do have, I think that there is not really a reason for me, at least, to believe in the Christian God and in general other gods, but tons of other people have reasons, and that's totally chill.
Okay. Thank you. And my very last question, and I'm sure everyone has other questions for you and questions for the room. Have you read the Bible?
No, I haven't. I want to, but
Okay, amazing.
don't have. It is kind of like more of a library than a book. There's a lot of things. It's very big, and I do have other books that I'm reading, but it is on my list. I would love to. I want to, but I haven't yet, sadly.
Good for you. It is the #1 best-selling book of all time, and people literally had to give their life up to get it to us in our hands. So I want you to keep that in mind, and thank you for your time.
Yeah. It's great. It's just like a Q&A with a global atheist.
Yeah.
Your fresh meat for the room.
Yeah. I used to come in all the time in the PNR server when people were still in the 24/7 Flat Earth, but like that channel died, and then I was like, oh no, all the Flat Earthers, they're gone. Where am I gonna go? Until I found the server. Now like all the people are back here that were used to be in the 24/7 Flat Earth channel. With some new faces too, but I think Bendy Space was always in the PNR server before everyone moved to here. Also Geo, I think I might recognize Geo. Demog, before he left, I recognize him.
So what you're saying is that without the flat earthers, you don't know what to do with your life?
No, it's just I do enjoy it. I have other things, like I read and I'm on a swim team, and I mountain bike and I ski and stuff. But I when I'm on Discord and I find that there's no one in the Flat Earth VC, there is a piece of my soul that's missing.
Hey, guy, you think life can emerge or spontaneously emerge from innate matter?
I think that life is pretty hard to define, because I'm a materialist, so I don't think there's like any real difference between life and other matter, like other than like how it interacts. So if you mean like something that like self-replicates and and has a sort of metabolism and what we'd classify as the things that life does, I'd say yes. But then again, there also are some things like consciousness which are pretty hard to explain. Like why do I have this first-person experience when that wouldn't really be necessary? I mean, you can have like sight organs. You can see things. You can have a creature that can take in light and then recognize food and recognize predators without needing a first-person experience. So it is pretty hard for me to explain consciousness, but I will say that yes, life as we understand it can come from non-life like chemicals and things. Sorry for the long-winded explanation or answer.
So, do you have an example of life emerging from innate matter?
Well, I think that there's a lot of good research on abiogenesis, and I mean you can see amino acids, form peptide bonds and then fold into proteins, and then those proteins will do things. And so I think that though I'm not in this field of abiogenesis, I don't know if we've actually synthesized life yet.
No.
No.
I
Okay.
haven't.
Well, if we haven't, well, from what I've seen, you kind of have all of the steps. You can make the proteins with the amino acids and
I mean,
form peptide
even if they
bonds.
gave them all the proteins, the DNA, the RNA, the polycarbs, positive and negative, the liptoids, all the necessary ingredients, the building blocks for life, you guys still can't assemble the life, even in like the smallest bacteria form.
Okay.
So I'm just asking, like, what makes you think that
You
evolution could
guys.
be a thing? If what do you think? What makes you think that evolution could ever be a thing if, or God not be a thing, if you don't have any real example of life coming from matter?
Well, first of all, I think that I shouldn't expect to have an example of life coming from matter because, I mean, for me to be alive, I would have to come after the time when life was first coming about, and so you have to do research and try and synthesize your own life. But just because we haven't done it yet, that doesn't mean it's not possible. We like you could say that we haven't been able, like you say that the people in the 1900s haven't been able to make an air fryer. That doesn't mean that the concept of an air fryer wasn't possible. So like just you can't see life being made from just chemicals because we are after that the time when that was happening. And
What do you mean
just
by
really
the lifetime period? Like as if there
like
was only a time
there's
period
like
that Mother Nature birthed life, and
well, I
that
was
would
saying
only
that there
be a
was a time when the
specific.
conditions were right where you had life forming from these chemicals. And obviously we're after that period, and so we're not seeing it. Maybe the conditions have changed, or maybe it's life is being formed from chemicals, but we're not looking at. So I don't know. But I think that just because we haven't been able to do it, I don't think that means it's not possible. And your other question was why do you think evolution is possible?
No, I was asking, like, if you think like there was a time period that life came about,
Yeah,
like why would it only be specific to a single time period? Like why wouldn't
because
we be
there
seeing
were a lot of
life
different
still be
conditions
emerging?
when life was first forming. You had like you kind of need the right temperature fluctuations, and like you need to have these like right like acidic
But
like
again, like
pools
what
and
makes
things.
you think that, like, if I already gave you the building blocks in a lab setting, right, where you could run your experiment and create it with all the necessary
Well, again,
ingredients
I don't
and
know what they're
antecedents?
doing like in the abiogenesis research labs, so I can't like tell you. I'm not an expert at abiogenesis.
Well, I'm telling you, they haven't created it.
Okay.
So again, like
But that
they've
doesn't
got
mean it's
everything
not
at their
possible.
fingertips. They've got
Yeah,
everything
again,
at their fingertips. So if the storyline
again,
you're
I don't know.
portraying is a possibility, I'm just saying it should be reproducible. If you're saying it just we need certain conditions, I mean, if you're gonna make that assumption, then we should be able to meet those conditions and
Hmm.
falsifiability. Remember?
Yes. Um,
That's why it's still a theory.
that's
Well,
my
it
least favorite
seems like
line.
a very yeah, unfruitful one.
I hope that you say justice theory as like a joke, because oh, actually, scientists have created
Well,
synthetic
no,
life in the
no,
lab.
I say it seriously because it's not like settled science. It is the theory of abiogenesis kind of thing. It's not
Oh, okay.
like a law type
I'm
thing.
not going to get into this, but theory, yeah. So
Yeah, they'll
I
lead you to
looked it up.
believe that, but look further into what you're trying to say right now, guy. I'm telling you, it's
Okay.
not the case. In fact, why don't you look up Dr. James Tour, who's the
Oh,
world's leading synthetic chemist?
yeah. No, he's not. I know who James Tour is. I kind of dislike him quite a bit. I think he's
Yeah, he's the
Yeah,
um
he
world's
hurt it.
leading synthetic chemist.
He yeah, but that's not biology, and he's hurt himself in the community as far as scientists go.
yeah.
Well, you
I
can't
know
do
who James Tour
biology
is, and
without.
he's
Yeah.
like yeah. I don't really want to get into this debate, but I know who James Tour is. I have my reasons to discredit him, but yeah.
Why? I mean, I'm just curious.
I think that I think that he's like I don't think he does good science. I mean you see him you saw him at like the Harvard like university at the round table, and it's a lot of nonsense. You can't actually have like real conversations with actual scientists.
I mean, just because he doesn't like fit within your worldview. I mean, that's
No,
no,
because
I don't think that's fair to
he's
say. I mean, he's highly decorated. I mean, all his work speaks for itself. He's
mhm,
bona fide and accredited, like beyond and above and
mhm,
beyond.
mhm. Well, yeah. Also, I looked it up. Scientists have in 2010 created the first synthetic cell. So it seems they have made life in a synthetic life in a lab.
He made a cell, huh?
Yeah, they made a cell. Yeah.
Yeah, I would even doubt that.
Hmm.
I would even doubt that. You should probably look further into it. I mean,
Hmm.
they do a lot of clickbait stuff to try to get people interested, and then when you look further into it, it's not really what they led
Oh,
you to believe.